MK Party brings Durban to a standstill. The staunch supporters of the Jacob Zuma-led uMkhonto weSizwe Party MKP brought the city of Durban to a standstill on Wednesday. Clad in MK regalia, more than 1,000 supporters marched against an array of issues, including what they call the rigging of votes during the May 29th elections. There was a heavy presence of police who kept a close watch on the march. They took aim at the Government of National Unity (GNU), labeling it an illegitimate government. Among the marchers was prominent MKP member Bonginkosi Khanyile. "We will not rest until our votes are returned. We have come here in our thousands to speak out against the broad-day robbery where the IEC, Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa, stole our votes," Khanyile said. One of the march organizers, Bishop Bonginkosi, said, "We are here today because we were robbed of votes. This march is to say we will not let the matter go until justice is done." Chanting struggle songs, the MKP marched from the Dinuzulu Park through Pixley Kaseme Street, West Street to the Durban City Hall. Some of them hosted placards bearing the words, "KZN belongs to MK Party." Others said, "Down with the GNU," in reference to the cocktail of parties formed after the May elections failed to produce a clear winner. This was after the ANC sank from the 57% of the vote it garnered in 2019 to 40%, forcing it to form a government with other parties, including the DA. The MKP has been accusing the IEC of robbing the party, claiming that 9.3 million votes were unaccounted for during the May elections. The party launched a legal challenge against the IEC, but abruptly withdrew it recently. The IEC is not letting the matter go, saying the allegations made by the MKP have been damaging to its reputation. The matter will be heard virtually on Monday, July 29th at 9 a.m., according to the Registrar of the Electoral Court, Delisile Nhlapo, in a letter dated Monday, July 15th. Meanwhile, ANC, a bunch of sellouts. SACP General Secretary Solly Mapaela has labeled the ANC sellouts for forming a coalition with the DA under the guise of a Government of National Unity (GNU). "We never stopped the ANC from speaking to anyone. The day after the elections were announced, we met as the Alliance Secretariat and said at this moment the critical point is that the liberation forces must secure political power. We anchored this on the basis not with the neoliberal forces of the DA and not with the counter-revolutionary forces of MK. In that process, we were left with engaging possibly with the forces of EFF and others to set up a minority government. I took the initiative, I called the EFF, I had several meetings with them. I went to meet Comrade Floyd Shivambu the day after I buried my brother. I went to the ANC. It was back and forth begging people to actually focus on the possible revolutionary path." He made the remarks while addressing the Nehau National Political School, which met for its second sitting at Beachwood Hotel in Bucksburg on Monday. Some in the ANC went too impatient with the view of looking into a coalition with the EFF, he said, but proceeded to offer reactionary forces and anti-revolutionary forces so much power. The other faction inside the ANC was too helpless, he said. Nehau President Mike Shingange said, "Our movement is sandwiched. We are under a government of an allied pact. We chose political parties based on what they were selling to us. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula said the party had not been politically obliterated but had suffered a setback. The ANC could have opted to be a backbencher in parliament, which would have made the party the biggest opposition party ever. People are saying we still want you to continue to lead, but at the end of the day, you don't have an outright majority. That is a setback, which then as a revolutionary party and revolutionaries need to be interpreted correctly. As the Communist Party says, we need to learn how to safeguard power. I've never seen a 40% party leading a government like we do. We have the president of the country. Political analyst Professor Sipho Sepe said it starts with the idea of the broad church that defines the ANC alliance. The perspective of elections is that it is always a powerful tool that allows the ANC to fish in a bigger pool, unlike if you were a Marxist, for example. It presents as home for everyone, creating an illusion that in that broad church everyone can be accommodated. It is a mess of internal contradictions. The ANC has chosen not to address those contradictions. They sell an illusion everybody can find space, when in fact the dominant faction dictates that the ANC will look like and who the ANC will work with. The rest are mere conveniences to serve the interests of the ANC. What it has shown is that it can damp the alliance. The dominant faction of the ANC is no different in ideological outlook than the DA, he said. Political analyst Nkosikhanyile Mnyembezi said that while life in the political wilderness is grim, the ANC alliance had the luxury of time. ANC ministers and MPs must work hard to keep ahead of developments in the brief. And above all, the leaders will need to command the out-trade papers and rebuild relationships with the industry and the professions and communities around the country who showed on May 29 that they had lost faith in the ANC alliance. On the other side, EFF and MK Party slants Police Minister Senzo Mchunu budget for crime prevention strategy. The Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF and uMkhonto weSizwe Party, MK, have slammed Police Minister Senzo Mchunu's budget vote, arguing that it lacks essential strategies to prevent and combat the scourge of crime. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu presented his budget proposal and outlined plans for his department during a medium-term budget session held at Parliament on Tuesday. The police have been allocated 113 billion rand for the 2024-2025 financial year, while the Civilian Secretariat for Police Service received a budget of 155 million rand, and the Independent Police Investigative Directorate IPID was allocated 370 million rand for the same period. He said that the priorities for the upcoming financial year will involve recruiting 10,000 police officers to bolster police ranks. Mchunu emphasized that the key priority is to decrease violent crimes, gender-based violence, and femicide by implementing enhanced plans for crime prevention and combat. We aim to reduce the percentage of contact crime reported by 14.5% over the medium term. Additionally, we expect the detection rate for contact crimes against women to improve over 71% and the detection rate for contact crimes against children to exceed 65%, he said. He said that these efforts will be carried out through the Detective Service Program, which has been allocated 71.3 billion rand. The Visible Policing Program, which weighs at least 52% of the total allocation of the budget, will receive an allocation of 189.7 billion rand over the medium term. uMkhonto said they will modernize police stations, including upgrading the information and communication technology ICT infrastructure, improving connectivity and deploying mobile technologies. An amount of 2.84 billion rand has been set aside for the 2024-2025 financial year for this purpose within the administration program. He said the Detective Services Program and the Crime Intelligence Program have budgets of 71.3 billion rand and 15.1 billion rand respectively over the medium term, aimed at addressing issues such as illegal mining, crime related to infrastructure, and extortion across all sectors, especially the construction industry. uMkhonto said that departmental spending in the medium term will prioritize key programs, including visible policing, which account to over 52%, the Detective Services Program, which makes up more than 20%, and personnel-related costs, contributing to over 80% of the financial year's budget. EFF MP Mbuyiseni Ndlozi criticized uMkhonto's budget vote, expressing that his strategy lacks a focus on crime prevention. In the last financial year alone, about 27,500 people were killed under the so-called peace conditions. While the Gaza, where there is war and genocide, 38,000 people were killed. You have lost the war against crime, he said. Of the top 30 police stations, if you look at them over the last 20 years, they repeat themselves. You know where the murder is taking place, so it means you need a preventative strategy. Ndlozi said over 42,000 rape cases were reported in the last financial year. Additionally, he alleged that the police are aware of the identities of gangsters and drug dealers but choose to turn a blind eye. The gangsters are embedded with the police. In fact, some of the drugs nowadays are transported with police vehicles as they don't get to be searched, and that's another key problem to the failure of police in this country, he said. Furthermore, MK Party MP opposed uMkhonto's budget, arguing that it fails to address critical issues such as capacity challenges within the Detective Services and Crime Intelligence Division. He expressed concerns over the insufficient regulations of firearms and the lack of progress in implementing community-oriented policing. The persistence and underperformance of the police in reducing contract crime and crime against women and children and escalating human trafficking has to stop, he said. And that's it from Injibs Network. Stay tuned to our celebrity and gossip news.